I remember saying, like, yo, I want to write a song for Great People. And I remember my boss, he was like, they're not going to care about it. I was kind of devastated. I was like, what? I was so hyped up about it. I was really young. I was like, forget it, I'm writing anyway. So I wrote this song, and I just so happened to be one of the few, Black people in that whole place. I happened to be one of the best fundraisers. Well, and I just happened to form a really good relationship with their ED at the time. Phil Radford, shout out, brother. And that man, he heard my rap, and he was like, yo, love it, man, love it. He's a hip hop head too. So next thing I know, they put my rap on the year-end capstone videos that they give to all their donors around the
Hey, it's Breaking Barriers, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging podcast. We're here for real talk. We're not afraid to go there. And we want you to come away emboldened and energized to take action and make change.
We believe our diversity, our differences, when joined together by a common set of ideals, makes us stronger.
When I set out to help someone, it is my intention to do just that. I'm not trying to do anything other than meet somebody at their humanity.
Your world has changed, but your dreams shouldn't have to. That's why Kirkwood is your next best step. With affordable, flexible, and close-to-home options, now's a great time to start or finish your Kirkwood degree. Learn more at kirkwood.edu/findyourfuture. Displaced or discouraged at work? Kirkwood can help you learn a new skill or totally reinvent yourself for a brand new career. With so many flexible and affordable options, you can get back on track fast. Learn more at kirkwood.edu/findyourfuture.
What's up in the world? We're back for another episode of Breaking Barriers, the DEIMB podcast, brought to you by our 5-star presenting sponsor, Kirkwood Community College, and our Silver Diversity sponsor, PG Cares. Thanks so much for your support. I'm your co-host, Anthony Arrington. I'm here with my homegirl, Joy Briscoe. How you doing, Joy?
Hello. Excited for this one. I love the merging of culture, music, DEI. I can't wait for that. Yes.
And we got our partner in crime, Nick Ford. What's happening, Nick?
I'm not guilty of anything. No crime. At least not that I know of. I'm happy. This is gonna be fun. So
what's up? We're about to get into it with our great host. Who we got, Nick? Who we got?
We got Khafre Jay, and boy, this is gonna be some fun conversation. So,
What's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
We're doing good.
We're doing good. So we're just gonna read a quick bio here for you. Would embarrass you a little bit, probably. So we try to do at least once. Among the many roles he fills, Khafre Jay is a change maker, a community organizer, nonprofit worker, hip hop artist, and the best father ever. I don't know about that one. Yeah, I'm pretty good. We'll go with it, though. We'll go with it. As a Bay Area Hunters Point activist fighting for racial and socioeconomic justice, he empowers community members to use their voices and resist structures of inequality. And he does so in large part through hip hop organizing. His passions for music, grassroots solutions, and community justice drove him to create the nonprofit Hip Hop for Change in 2013, which utilizes hip hop to break down barriers between youth and justice issues that affect their lives and communities. With Khafre at the helm, Hip Hop for Change employed over 1,000 people in the community, educated over 30,000 youth K through 12, and raised over $6 million through grassroots means and public support. Now he's at the helm of a new revolutionary nonprofit, Hip Hop for the People, creating even more space for his culture at www.hiphopforthepeople.org.
Yeah.
Please check it out, listeners. For all this, Khafre's work has recently been recognized by East Bay Economic Development Association, receiving the Arts and Innovation Award in 2022. The year before, he was elevated by the Zellerbach Family Foundation and the San Francisco Symphony, winning both the 2020 William J. Zellerbach Award for Social Change and the Symphony's 2020 Ellen Magnan Newman Award for Outstanding Arts Organization. He has graced Mother Jones, the Daily Cause, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Oakland Tribune, Pop Vulture Magazine, and Music Bailout. Cataract surgery always gets me on these small screens. Here we go. I got Zoom. All right. There's more. We're not done yet. His work has been featured on CBS News, The Black News Report, NBC Bay Area, and PBS NewsHour. Well, that's going to be a new question right there coming. His brand of raw, revolutionary, anti-white supremacist, and misogynistic, community-oriented hip-hop is a plus on any stage. If you want your audience to move, Khafre Jay is your answer. He never slows down. And he has an old website, too, here at www.khafrej.com. Welcome, Khafre. We're definitely excited that you're joining us today, and we're happy to have you here. So
right on.
Let's get at it, and let's as Anthony likes to say, chop it up.
All right.
If I chop it up, it's usually I'm in the kitchen.
Joy, I know you're chomping at the bit. What you got for him?
Oh my, so many questions. So from the beginning, I just want to know, how did you become Khafre Jay? What got you started on this path?
I think I've always been Khafre Jay. I think it's been getting people to realize that. I've always you know, I come from a strong family. You know, my father invested in me and my artistry very early. My dad was always singing around. He put me in a choir. He was an actor, director. So I was, you know, not directing, acting and doing voiceovers very early on, young. My parents, still being very broke, living in the hood, they worked their butts off to at least get me into a Montessori school until 5th grade when they couldn't afford it. But I got a pretty early start and a lot of support in the household, just being myself, you know, getting encouragement, singing. I was, you know, singing on stage with choirs and whatnot. So I think that growing up in the hip hop community, I was rapping before I even knew what rap was in the shower. You know what I'm saying? It was just who I was. And I think, you know, being grounded in that kind of artistry from an early age gave me the means of analyzing myself, introspection, and also, you know, working on, you know, affirming who I am. So I think my artistry, my upbringing, you know, the effort my parents put into me is why I was able to be my true self in front of people, so people could, you know, start to feel me a little bit. I guess I said, you know.
What was that point in your life, Khafre, where you said, you know what, I need to talk about social justice, and I have this method through hip hop to do it? Like, what was the catalyst that made you decide I'm going to do that? Yeah, and I'm jealous, by the way.
Yo, well, iron sharpens iron, brother. So we got enough. You know, I'm gonna be jealous of you in some way too.
Absolutely,
but,
I love it.
Yeah, you know, I remember rapping about stupid stuff growing up. You know, all that male toxic stuff we're trying to get off our chest. And I remember loving and falling in love with rhyme. You know what I'm saying? But I also remember talking about fake stuff that just didn't really reflect what I was going through, the hurt I was going through, or you know, my real dopeness. I remember hearing, like, you know, after I kind of got out of one really toxic situation, you know, close to the end of high school, and got into another really beautiful one where I got invited and introduced to this new realm of hip hop that I never really got into. You know, it's like the first time I heard Rakim, because I'm from Hunters Point. I was listening to RBL Posse and E40 and stuff like that, you know, and some Bone Thugs and DMX. And then all of a sudden I hear Living Legends and Hieroglyphics, and I heard Black Star, you know what I'm saying? And my mind went, bow. And I was like, holy shit. These people are rapping about something that you know, really resonated with me. You know what I'm saying? It was closer to home. And I think that growing up, my parents always, you know, they named me Khafre. That's a king's name in Africa, you know. They gave me comic books about Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and Benjamin Banneker. You know, they wanted me to be rooted in my people's excellence. So when I heard hip hop for the first time, that was just lifting that up. It kind of, you know, you start hearing your ancestral drums in your chest, and you can't really unhear that. So I feel like from being about 19, you know, probably 18, 19, till now, I've been trying to figure out how to make those drums that I feel and I hear in my chest reflect through my rhymes and elevate my rhymes to be, you know, as important as they should be. You know, we stand on great shoulders. And I feel like once I knew that my rhymes could be about that, and I felt that for the first, just tasted that for the first time, like, ooh, snap, you feel that Huey P, you feel that Ida B. Wells, you know what I'm saying? That you can't live that down, you know what I'm saying? So I've been searching for that for 20 years.
How has that, how do you feel, how has that had an impact on your audiences and on your people?
Oh, man.
Because you're getting into spaces that, you know, and I have a follow-up topic. I don't want to hog the show, but you're getting into spaces that people with your voice don't normally get into.
And I love it. I love it too.
Can you talk about that a little bit and how you've been able to do that and how that's been impactful?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I say when I was working for Greenpeace, you know, I remember writing you know, I was just loving the experience of getting paid to do something that I thought was really good for my community. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciated Greenpeace and their ability to change, you know, change practices for mega corporations and whatnot. I was just really learning about the means of activism, strategies, the goals, and the tactics, and the organizing, you know. And I remember saying, yo, I want to write a song for Greenpeace. And I remember my boss, he was like, they're not going to care about that. And I was kind of devastated. I was like, what? I was so hyped up about it. I was really young. I was like, forget it, I'm gonna write it anyway. So I wrote this song, and I just so happened to be one of the few, Black people in that whole place. I happened to be one of the best fundraisers as well, and I just happened to form a really good relationship with their ED at the time. Phil Radford, shout out, brother. And that man, he heard my rap, and he was like, yo, love it, man, love it. He's a hip hop head too. So next thing I know, they put my rap on the year-end capstone video that they give to all their donors around the nation. He flew me on his own dime out to rap at the 2010 Democratic National Convention. I got to rap this little corny Greenpeace rap I wrote right before Trump spoke. You know what I'm saying? And I had like old white ladies in the aisles like going, hey, I'm rapping about the environment. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, this is dope. And I realized that for some of these, the environmental movement is white as hell. The Democratic Convention is white as hell, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing these 50, 60-year-old white women dancing in the aisles, loving what I'm saying about the environment. That was cool as hell for me. You know what I'm saying? I also instantly, realized how important it was for them because they'd never seen nothing like that before. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I think that's the first time I fell in love with that. And throughout my hip hop career, I would do these little sneak songs for different organizations. I remember I was at SF State and I got to do, I was studying international relations. I wrote a rap for an organization called Skateistan that does skating in, Afghanistan and places like that where women can't really, play sports after they're 11 or 12. But since they've never really seen skating, they don't really have they haven't really confined it into their patriarchal structures yet. So girls actually can skateboard without, somebody coming at them. So this guy went over there, started this organization, and I loved it. So I wrote a whole rap and shot a video for it. And, I did that for another org called Planting Justice. So throughout my organizing, I've seen the impact that hip hop, has on people. And anytime you can get on, I'm an MC, so I love moving crowds, and if I see these white folks get moved and they're starting to understand my community, how could I not want that more? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think because I'm an activist and I organize communities that they need hip hop and have no idea how to get it, or communities that are trying to diversify as well, they're trying to reach out to different communities, you become that bridge for them, you become that voice. I've had organizations. I wrote a song for Kaiser for their Health and Equity Summit. They're bringing this out, and I turned the hashtag into a rap and performed it on stage. Everybody knows they need hip hop. MSNBC is playing trap beats going to commercial now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Ari Melba was one of my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, he still needs to holler at me on LinkedIn, Ari.
Let's push him. Holler at him, Ari. No, I love what I heard you say, and this is that part that I hope our audience is listening to because this is what I wanted. I was hoping that you would be able to explain is how hip hop is connected. You have 50-year-old women listening to what you were saying because there's many styles of the music, and you've used it. You're using the music in a way that is impactful in this social justice, and it sounds like you're having an impact. So that is so damn cool.
I mean, just let me speak to this because those 50-year-old women, they remember when Blondie came out with Rapture. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They thought hip hop was cool back then, and they wanted to do it back then too.
Yep.
I think it's about giving people permission. Hip hop is about peace, love, unity, and having fun. So when people view hip hop through the lens of corporate media, and it's mostly gangster rap, and they think you got to be a thug to do hip hop. Of course, they don't see a space for them to get in. They still want to do hip hop, but I think that a lot of times when people are confronted with me, they see the love that's in hip hop. Even whether it be through a gold grill and a dude wearing a hoodie that makes a lot of white people uncomfortable, they get engaged. They see the space for themselves. They get permission to be a part of this human culture that is the most diverse culture that has ever been created. So yeah,
absolutely,
that's a good segue. So I'm sure you've probably seen it. Skip Bayless talking about what's happened with Ja and Kyrie in the past and trying to blame it on rap.
Yeah.
What are your I don't know. My thoughts are on that. Same as it is about playing video games to make you a killer. But what are your thoughts on that? When you hear stuff like that, and I know it's different types of rap, but what are your thoughts?
Well, so when you look at studies that have been done on video games, right? Actually, video games help people deal with thoughts of violence and things like that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't incentivize violence. That's video games, though. I think that Blackness has a different pull on American kids. You know what I'm saying? Blackness and what people conflate Blackness with, i.e. the thuggishness that they see blackness through corporate media, right? Because mind you, where 70% of white people don't have a single person of color for friends in America. That's self-reported. And I didn't even say hood black dude, you know what I'm saying? So for a lot of people, especially in Iowa, right, they view and learn about blackness from 3 corporations, Time, Sony, and Universal. And, you know, that's what they learn. That's what they think is black, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people conflate hip-hop with the black experience. They don't conflate that when Macklemore or Eminem raps, you know what I'm saying? Right. But they think Young Thug is perfect depiction of what black youth are. You know, and I think that has a very different pull than some kid playing God of War and Halo. You know what I'm saying? That's very different because, you know, black swag runs the nation. It always has. We invented it all. And I think that for a lot of kids who have not known that they come from a beautiful culture like Celtic cultures, right? They don't know what a rune stone is. You know what I'm saying? They don't know the depths of that love. Because whiteness is the loss of that culture. I think that a lot of them look up to black culture or the thought of what they think black culture is.
So what do you say to a Skip Bayless who's blaming rap music for the problem?
Well,
if Skip was sitting in front of you, what would you tell Skip?
So first, so before I speak on things, I like to do a little research myself. Okay. And, you know, look at a lot of black and brown people speaking on it. And I think this one, I forget the man's name. He said something really beautiful. He's like, okay, so, you know, see a homie pull up a little gun, right? Not even holding him.
He's like a cup of tea.
Right? You know, well, first off, this man does not come from the block. You know what I'm saying? He comes from a really strong household. He's not hard, you know? Yeah. And I understand that. I understand the desire to want to be hard. A lot of times men do that as a safety mechanism so they don't have to face violence from men that they know are hard. So we can talk. I can't even hear you, Joy, but I want to hear you right now.
Yeah, Joy.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
I'm just so curious about it too, because like in this current state of time, there's like politicians posing with guns that are still politicians.
Yes.
So like I'm in this space of like, I'm not arguing ridiculous concepts, right? Like if you can have, what's the lady, Marjorie Taylor, whatever her name is, posing with, then let's not strip a young kid who, like, let's just not do it.
He's not doing anything with the gun.
Exactly. It's not justified.
No. So the thing is that I think it comes from the same place, right? Why? And this is what this man said that I listened to. He said, why is that a flex, though? That's what we really need to get down to. Because regardless of that, homie, there's a larger thing here. Because I understand the flex when you have, you know, Lauren Boebert with the AR-15 that she's never really shot before, probably, I don't know. And why that makes her look hard to conservatives or to right-wing, alt-right people who are shooting for a race war. So I don't know, whatever. I understand why that is a flex for them. But I care about why this is a flex for this well-off, basketball player to be like, oh, that's a flex. How is that a flex?
Right.
So why is that a flex? I think that's a flex because, I think that we have had our imagery of what is hard to hip-hop, to Black communities, change and taken over, So now we got these people renting out mansions, you know what I'm saying, and renting cars, and that's hard. They pay women to dance around them, and that's hard. Where I grew up, that was not hard, you know what I'm saying? That was considered very different. It's not a flex to sit there and talk about your man who did this and did that and self-snitch on yourself. Where I grew up, being gangster was a real thing, you know what I'm saying? And, like Lil Wayne said, the G is silent in lasagna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Real G's move in silence. But regardless, I think now we have changed what is a flex to being like, I have a gun. Not even I can hold a gun. I'm tactful. I'm really good at shooting. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I have a gun. Why is that a flex?
Well, and that's that issue.
Well, I think it's because 70% of hip hop is bought by suburban white men between 18 and 24.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And their desires, their rules, their cultural values dictate what is a flex now in hip hop. And I think that ball player right there now, because he grew up in the age he grew up, he's very susceptible to thinking that that's a flex. Probably doesn't even know that the only reason that is a flex is because the people that decide the cultural norms in rap music now are suburban white males.
Yeah.
That's why we don't see women, rapping about their lives matter, and we just see them talking about their booty cheeks, which is okay. But that's also why something like WAP was such a big cultural moment, because when the tastes are just white males, you don't have things that show women's empowerment or ownership over their bodies. It doesn't really break out very often. And so where something like WAP becomes so powerful because it's so rare, you know what I'm saying? Something like, oh, just having a gun becomes this tropish, ubiquitous kind of flex because these people who are controlling it don't know the cultural norms of the hood. That's sad to me.
Yeah, that's cultural norms. And it's that root issue that you're talking about, Khafre. And this is something we speak about all the time in our space. It's easy to say that holding a gun in front of people, posing with a gun is not cool. Like it, for many of us, it's probably easiest for us to say that. But for us that feel that way, are we asking the next question? Why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think it's almost like it's not about posing with a gun is not cool. It's like showing your gun off is stupid. You know what I'm saying? The hood has rules and regulations, there's rules and levels and layers. And the first thing that your homie on the block will tell you,
don't snitch on yourself.
Your big homie,
don't pull your gun out unless you're ready to use it.
Unless you're ready to use it.
Yeah.
You know
I know that.
Yep. For me, I see homie going like this, and I'm like, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Don't pull your gun out unless you're ready to use it."
I hope he doesn't shoot himself.
I know. You see, and so for me, for people in the real block where we come from, we're like, yo, you are tripping. We know you from the suburbs. We know you soft. We know this ain't your life. You know what I'm saying? You know you don't have big homies telling you. But he's still famous. He still gets on. He still gets people like Skip Bayless saying whatever and blaming on rap. Instead of blaming on these white kids who have no cultural norms, but they have most of the money in the nation. So these big three corporations only caring about green will only cater to these people because they don't know what's real and what isn't real. Right. When black folks have all these rules and regulations, and that's a lot harder to move billions of units off of. So I think instead of blaming rap, we should blame suburban white males' taste and their beliefs and their projections about young black culture.
Yep.
But yeah,
how do we get to that's the root issues? How do we get to the real issue behind it?
How do we break that though? Because I super agree with you because even like as a black woman, right, and who is raising black women.
Yeah,
it can be concerning about what they digest out in the world. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I will pop in a City Girls. I will, I will pop in a Cardi B. But I'm mature enough to like know the difference. I'm mature enough that this is a song when me and my girls are getting ready to go somewhere, or we're having fun, or if my fiance ride with me and I want to make him mad because he's like, "Why is she playing all these girl anthems?" That's what that's for, right? But young people, like my 13-year-old, she can't always distinguish between what she's being fed from the media and what is our actual reality. And the actual reality is that, like, no, you shouldn't be trying to take men for their money. You shouldn't put drugs in your drinks, and you'll go to jail for that. You know what I mean? And so how do we start to create a culture that more teaches like that's entertainment, and the reality is not that.
So
look, I'm gonna say it like this, I think it's always context, you know what I'm saying? In a patriarchal world, of course, listening to something that says, I'm gonna take my power back and have some ownership over men who've been owning me, that's a revolutionary act, especially according to somebody like Audre Lorde, you know what I'm saying? Just telling your story. And that's because of society that you love City Girls, because man, we need these narratives right now because we have nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sorry if I feel uncomfortable as a man because these girls are talking about something that we've been doing to them for so long. I think a lot of oppressed and marginalized communities, they react like that. That's why queer people say queer, and black people say the N-word, you know what I'm saying? It's reclaiming my time.
Yeah.
But I don't put that into bad context. I think that because of the environment that's out there made by the dollars of white men, City Girls is extra cracking. But how do we change this so there's more narratives? Because back in the day, we had Queen Latifah, Only Love, but we also had Salt and Pepper too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like we had a diversity. You get it where you fit it. I think for me, being from where I'm from, when I see somebody like these artists that are lying on on the microphone, these white kids that are soaking it up, I've been educated to know that's not reality. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's like a video game. It's benign as a video game is to violence and perpetuating. But these white kids don't know that. So now you got white kids shooting up, bang, bang, and fighting and going crazy because they're more susceptible to these things. You got kids that might not grow up in the hood who might think that this is the flex now. You know what I'm saying? I think it's about education. And Joy, I'm assuming just because of how you're rolling, your daughter's going to have an easier time having an example in education about what happens when you do something like rob a dude by putting a drink. You know what I'm saying? Your daughter might even understand the pressures that, society's put on Black women to where they get in situations like human trafficking, where they might get in a position where they might really, you know what I'm saying? So I think that kids are so smart that when we give them the tools and the understanding and the real, they will make a pimp decision like Cat Williams said, and they will know what they should or should not do, and they'll know where they want to be and where they don't want to be. I think when you're playing with something like hip hop, which is kind of like a loaded gun in the amount of power it has and sway it has over our young kids' minds, and we don't teach them what hip hop really is. You know what I'm saying? They just listen in the future. You know what I'm saying? But they don't know what hip hop is. It's like
as a culture,
a loaded gun. Yeah, you're playing with a whole loaded gun. And I often tell people, I say, if you're gonna dip your toes into my culture, if I was listening to heavy metal, I wouldn't listen to neo-Nazi heavy metal first. You know what I'm saying? There's so many other things to listen to.
Right.
So if you
maybe start with Metallica or something more like that.
Yeah. Anything, right? But if you
death
dip
metal.
your toes, there's so many. You can go from emo to rave, grunge, punk, all these things. But why are you gonna dip your toes in the Black death and the objectification of Black women with your first venture into my culture? And then why are we allowing these people to sell it? So if you want to stop it, these kids aren't going to stop doing hip hop. What alternative do they have? And what alternative are we providing for them?
Yeah.
We couldn't stop our parents from doing a twist. All right, you know what I'm saying? You ain't going to stop these kids from having swag. And there's nothing more swaggish than hip hop, and I doubt there ever will be. So,
right. And so how do you leverage it? I love that. I love that approach. And it's
great
like
segue.
Great
segue into how he leverages it.
Yeah.
So I knew Joy was going to steal part of my question. So let me give you an example. So my wife is a special ed teacher, and she's taught in Newport News, and she had kids that were honest. They were gangbangers. They were real honest. I mean, that's what they were. That's how they were raised. That's what they grew up to be. So now here we are in Iowa. The same thing. She's got a kid that gets in trouble with the law every once in a while and sees on a video with a gun. And how do we get young kids to understand, especially young Black kids who are already under the system, right? Everything's against them already, it seems like. And systemically, we believe that. So how do you get them to not fall in love with that, the thug type rap that it does kind of say, hey, this is, and how do we get those rappers to come out and say, this isn't real. This is how I maybe lived. This isn't real, how it should be for you and for all kids. Because, I mean, you can see the envisioning, the fantasy of it, right? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, well, when kids are living the Black life, when your ancestors tooted you rapping stupid, it's not right. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's really what it is. And I think I wish a lot of people use the real meaning of the word woke, as it was coined in the 90s, to knowing your history, knowing, what your people have been through, what it took to get here, so you can be awake to where you are, what you need to do to facilitate that legacy and keep moving safely in this white supremacist world. I think that, I used to bang too, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And what woke me up is I had an alternative. You talk about these kids in Chicago who are shooting up and they're even rapping about killing Black people and whatnot. And it's taken me, my activism, to really learn not to demonize these kids. Because you have a company that comes in and says, here's a $100,000 signing bonus if you sell your life to me. You know what I'm saying? And we're over here knocking this kid like he's stupid when we realize he has the worst deal ever. But if we don't have an alternative $100,000 deal to get his mama off the projects and out of this death, like, get off my man's back. You know what I'm saying?
The correlation to crime is poverty.
Real
That's what people never want to talk. It's not race.
It's not race.
It's opportunity. The correlation to be even from some of the and it's intentional.
And look, and when you're in a place like Chicago, when you're spending $1 million a block on the South Side to police these kids, you're like, what are you wasting your money on? These kids spending $1 million a block each year to police Black bodies and brutalize them. Instead of having recreation centers and having free careers, these kids are geniuses, you know what I'm saying? And the same thing that happened to me, I got pissed off and I didn't have an outlet. So what we talk about is what is the alternative for these young kids? They're not going to stop rapping. They're not going to stop being angry. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know,
the kids aren't going to stop watching horror flicks. They're not going to stop watching Jason and Scream. They're not going to stop listening to hardcore hip hop. What's the alternative? That doesn't mean that they can't listen to that. What is the alternative?
Well, how about we find what's making them angry and get rid of that?
Yeah.
I mean,
or you know what I think is even better? Find out what's making them angry and then give them all the money and the means to fight against it themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Children are the future, right? You know, and they have all the activism, but I think that these kids are working with like peanuts, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to being able to engage in their own community. I think that's why hip hop is really beautiful. It's the 50th anniversary, and we think about, you know, something like breakdancing. That was invented by 12-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, our kids are geniuses. These kids have all the strength and they have all the humanity still intact inside their little chest.
This genre that we're in right now, we're invented by 17-year-old kids, man.
Yeah. Exactly. People often forget how even the greats that are activists, when you think about Martin, Malcolm, how young they were when they were killed.
They were young.
Like how I went to see Dick Gregory's daughter recently, maybe like a month ago, and she was talking about her experience as a child marching and protesting and things. And so sometimes I think, you know, people are like, oh, these kids need to just settle down, but they forget how much movement has come on the heels of kids. Like, again, we're here. Black Lives Matter came out of a group of young people, and this whole synergy from 2020 was built based off protests and things that they were doing in the streets. So I was in the back like, hey, how can I support you? Need some water? What do we eat?
I realized that I got older. My body can't go march and walk anymore. I mean, it's a young kid's thing. I mean, it's a young person's game. But that's okay. You want them there.
Let's say this: it's everybody's game, right?
Well, yeah, that's true.
But you know what I'm saying? Because maybe grandma can't come out with an AK-47 and shut down a freeway in Oakland. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But you know, that's like, where's the church at laying hands on people? You know what I'm saying? Making sure they're prayed up, or who's feeding them and giving sandwiches to these people who are about to get tear gas. You know what I'm saying? That's what we had. You know, with the whole protest back in the days. You know, we talk about the Selma and whatnot. We had organizing structures in Black communities, but people were getting in where they fit in.
This is what my uncle always tells me.
He talks about it all the time.
My uncle's been an NAACP leader here for like 40 plus years, and he's been an activist since he was a teenager. And I talked to him a lot about what it was like in the 60s when he was 17, 18, 20s, and what it's like today. And he tells me a lot, because there was this period of my life where, you know, and Nick and I have talked about this, where I felt guilty that I wasn't contributing to my community the way I was supposed to. And I spent, quite honestly, I screwed off a lot of my 20s not doing what Anthony should have been doing. And there was these periods in my life where I regret, right? These are periods of regret. And my uncle always tells me to meet people where they're at, and everybody has a role. From lawyers to gangsters on the street, we all play a role in this game.
Everybody has
and so
a role.
I love hearing that. I want to switch gears a little, not really switch gears, but I want to be a little selfish, because so I'm being coached. We're all being coached, and we're all trying to learn and be better people. And you're such a provocative personality. And we've talked about how you're able to get into some of these prestigious spaces with your approach. And you're so provocative online, and I love it. But having said that, one of the discussions that was had with me the other day, and I'm struggling with it, but I understand it, is that to be more impactful, I could limit my activism approach in terms of what I post on LinkedIn, because there are some entities that perhaps may be interested in what we have to say, but because of the provocative nature, it could turn some people off, in layman's terms. I'll just use that. So let me, from your view, how do you feel about that? And talk to me about that.
Time out. You know, that first is, has to work under the premise that working and being a mediocre activist and not speaking your true heart has longevity in the game, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to actually have an impact, you need to have a longevity and build up something. So if you're trying to speak out and change things and be authentic, that's not going to happen by placating white sentiments and being a soft Negro, stepping softly around these white folks. That's not going to galvanize you. It's not going to give you a strong back, and that probably won't equal up to you being hell inspired like I am. You know, every day when I walk up to the plate, you know what I'm saying, to hit a home run for my people. I am stuck in my activism because I'm so inspired by what possible through it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that, I think that the whole premise of like, you know, softening and stepping quietly around these white folks is the antithesis of what creates longevity inside of a black activist. You know what I'm saying? Maya Angelou didn't do that all her life because she was stepping softly. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, that's just what drives us. So that's what I first reject with this whole placating white sentiment to get on, because it's rooted in not knowing not knowing what we need as Black people to be passionate and stick in the game long. I think secondly, you know, it's a horrible sales tactic. Like, I'm really good at sales, you know what I'm saying? And you don't sell people by being like, you know, my knife cuts pretty well, you know, it can make a pretty nice dice. You know, you say it slices it, dices it, motherfucker, Julian, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you got to be about that life. And when you soften something, you're hoping that more people will hear you and that you'll have a higher amount of people with your low percentage success rate that will, you know, offset, and you'll be able to sell more units of something. That's the same thing as like saying, oh, maybe if I make mine cheaper, more people will buy it. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if I cut down how much I make, you know, my own net, then more people will buy it. Instead of the opposite, if I charge twice as much as it should ever be worth, like more people will buy it,
right? And
they'll be more into it. So I think that especially when you're doing racial justice work, and I think this is why I've always been able to get into these unique spaces. It's not just because I'm a Black activist. It's because there's good white people. There are really good white people that exist that have doors that they can open for you if they choose to. And because of how I step into rooms with my unapologeticness, I think I've inspired more white folks who identified with me or who knew I was necessary than I ever would have inspired softening my statements and my Blackness, hoping that I stick out in this large pool, being the only drop that looks like everybody else. So shout out to the people who've opened doors, but they opened the most doors because that was something that they have not seen often. Hyper unapologetic Black man that still got love, you know what I'm saying? But also don't give a F-bomb, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I would tell people real, and I think that inspires more people to rock with you than ever softening anything. And it also inspires you to wake up every morning and keep going.
Yeah. So that's why we made a decision early on when we knew this would come up. And I was like, you know what? If they don't hire us because you're an activist, maybe we don't want them as a client. Maybe we're not for them. And I'm okay with that.
Work.
I mean, does it suck as a small business losing that money sometimes? Yeah, but at least we can sleep at night.
Yeah. I think that's really important. That's just important for keeping any person in the game going, or else it's work. It's very heavy, burdensome work. You know.
So how do we? You know, so one of the guests we had on, Future, came and talks a lot about self-care. How do you? I mean, I'm sure you use Future. I'm sure you use music, obviously, but you know, what would you tell people in the space that we're in? It's like, I mean, there's times I'm almost ready to start a LinkedIn group called WTAF. That actually, I was joking with my friend I should do it monthly. He's like, yeah, you probably gotta do it weekly or more often because the stuff we just keep seeing. But how would you recommend someone out there that does this work to keep that level set sanity? And not that we want anger in check, but keep it in a safe check. I mean, where it's not overwhelming.
I think for me, it's like I've had more time recently just like go work out to the gym, play with my daughter. You know what I'm saying? I think we always need to be able to balance those times. And so recently, I've actually included on my work schedule, right? It says lunch now. Right?
I love it. You take it and you take it.
YMCA. Bow, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so I've reprioritized that, especially since moving to a new organization and having to look at my schedule again. But I also think that that's not really the real world for a lot of people, especially people who are, you know, don't have the means and whatnot. You know, being a poor Black activist initially, you know, people would be like, you work too hard, you'll burn out. And I'm like, I was burnt out when I found out I was Black when I was like 11. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, people are like, you should take a sabbatical. I'm like, what is a sabbatical? I'm trying to like make it in life. So I don't know that the amount of work is really what hurts the most. I think what is the coolest and what is the best self-care for people who have to work their butts off because it's the only chance they've ever had, the only shot they've ever had, and they don't have the luxury or the privilege to hit the brakes or coast. You know what I'm saying? I think when you root yourself in your work and and your life's cause, like your mission, something that fulfills like your love for your own activism and what you want to create in the world, then the work is not only not as burdensome, it's something that you're really inspired, and it just becomes something so cool.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. Like I often have to like literally say like, okay, I'm gonna go to the movies, or like I'm gonna take my daughter bowling, because you feel such a high level of responsibility. You feel this high, like you're standing on the shoulders of your ancestors, and they're giving you opportunities that they probably didn't have. And then on top of it, let's be real, like we haven't even always been in this point where people have been like excited about supporting this work. So the goal is to like, okay, we need all the support. We need all the support right now, because at some point, and we're in Iowa too, so right now that window is going.
You know what's unique for me? You know, I love that my LinkedIn profile says I'm the best father, and Nick, you know, we'll figure out some content. All right, bro.
My kids would probably agree with you, so.
You know, my kid would probably be hanging out with you. But I'll say this, you know, I think one of the things that is really important for me, and I've never had the luxury of not representing my entire people. It's kind of a burden when you know exactly what's going on against your people. And you're like, I have to do the best for Blackness, and I have to organize the most, you know. But part of my goal and my mission in life as a Black father, you know, is to keep up with the Black fathers that have been so integral in, you know, our survival in the history of our you know, Black people being here. Black fathers are kicking ass, you know what I'm saying? They're doing very well. And,
reminds me of your shirt, Anthony.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's also activism for me. You know what I'm saying? When I think about Medgar Evers, you know what I'm saying? Medgar Evers definitely put his life on the line, but he was a great dad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Powerful, and he worked for his kids. So part of your Black activism is continuing life, because you're only here for so long, and you got daughters. I got a daughter, and she is a little Jaguar warrior princess. And she just started yelling Black power and saying, I'm a Mexica Afro warrior. You know, it's just beautiful. I have to make sure that her spear is sharpened and pointed towards truth. So that is also a part of your activism. You can't help people without helping yourself. So, and also making sure people respect that in your schedule as well. Boundaries.
Good. So, Khafre, one last question, and I think we got to get to our listener question. I know we probably got a good one.
Oh, well.
What? I don't want to phrase this. You obviously, with your approach, you've had situations where you've been ostracized, rejected, called every name in the book online or otherwise. How do you deal with that personally? How do you manage to do that personally?
Other than rapping,
I go to the studio. I know that's what I go to the studio. But
you know, I think that especially coming from where I come from, I've had to really confront my anger and how I deal with it for a long time.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I got teeth marks in every finger I got. So I got that luxury of at least knowing that I have to deal with my anger and how people affect me. You know what I'm saying? And how much I let people affect me. But I think activism is about having a voice. You know what I'm saying? Throughout all the killings and losing Roe versus Wade, and, you know what I'm saying? And the war on war, like, People say, man, you so hopeful. I'm like, you think I'm hopeful? you think I'm hopeful? We're losing hegemony. I don't know if we'll be here 50 years from now as a nation, you know, or if we deserve to be. And that's not what keeps me going. You know what I'm saying? I think for the most part, it's just what's right. You know what I'm saying? That we have to do. It's not because of the outcome. But I think that for me, when you have a means of speaking to your anger, right? Speaking to what's going on wrong in the world, having an outlet, that just having somewhere to point that anger. That's what you need.
Yeah.
Anger is valid, it's important, and we have every right to be livid. But just keeping that inside is just building up while you're working some job, you know what I'm saying? And never getting a chance to use that anger to do anything about it, to talk on it, to speak on it. That's really detrimental to people with love and humanity and empathy for the pain that our earth is going through.
Yeah, so, even people that disagree with you, like even people that aren't on your level, the fact that they have to bottle that stuff up creates challenges for us all. That's why we love to facilitate and do what we do, because we want people to release.
Sometimes I wish a few of them would bottle it up a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, well, you know what? I mean, I also like my races out in the open too. You know what I'm saying? But I'll say this: what I've learned to do is when somebody sends me, calls me a monkey and an N-word in my DMs, I screenshot that and show the world. You know what I'm saying? And then cool white folks will give me money sometimes because that happened to me. Or give me a free LinkedIn profile for the year or whatnot. I think that we're not gonna make it unless we come together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Against the powers that be, and this fake race war that they think is going to happen as soon as that all white folks is going to be on white people's side versus all the minorities, like really, and that's not the way it is. So I think that it's really cool when I get to go to these white spaces and feel needed, and they know they need me. I know they need me as well, and we need each other. And sometimes they got the money, and so when we show white people what we go through, when we show them our culture, when we show them that hey, there's a chance for you to show up. And this is the way to do it, and they respond to that. It feels good.
Love that.
It feels good.
Yeah. Love
and
that.
We need more of that.
Yeah, we do. We do. If you're listening out there, yes, to our listeners.
That was actually one of our listener questions that they were saying they're trying to figure out how to get other supporters to understand how hip hop influences culture and how to build resources and coalition behind this work. So, Khafre. If I'm the next Khafre out there, right? I'm Khafre 2.0. What are we, 2023? What advice would you give to our young listener that's saying, hey, I know the change that hip hop can make. I know I want to be that change, but how can I mobilize? How can I be resourced well? Because it's a challenge to do stuff when you don't have resources. What advice would you give?
Well, just know that we're not outnumbered. We're just out organized, like Malcolm X said, right? So it's not about knowing about the power of hip hop. It's about how much power can you organize and how much of that organizing can you replicate in perpetuity, right? And it's like we can be mad or we can be Marcus Garvey. You know what I'm saying? And really, that's what it's about. So luckily, I cut my teeth.
You writing that down, Joy?
I'm writing that down. We can be mad or we can be
Marcus Garvey. Write that down, please.
And he was still mad too, right?
Yeah, we can be mad and Marcus.
Mad. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like how much of that power can you organize? Because nonprofits are a business. It is a white supremacist business structure that's allowed in the state, in the United States to exist. But it's an organizing structure, and a lot of people don't really know that they can do these things. They don't really know. They don't have the language for it. But they all have the swag in the game that they've learned and done every single year of their life to make it in the hood. So if they knew that they could do this type of organizing, they knew that they could organize just like their churches, right? They knew that they could organize just like the protests they see on TV. And that's why they knew how to file an LLC and maybe 501c3 status, you know what I'm saying? They'd be surprised at the dopamine kick they get from getting their incorporation papers in the mail and be like, oh, I got a business, hey. Because organizing is just a set of dopamine kicks. Because you're hitting your goals, you're just going, it's one step at a time. You know what I'm saying? It's not getting spooked by your dreams because your dreams should be so big they're spooky. But can you go take the steps and learn and Google how to organize your people? And whatever way you learn to organize it, it's slim pickings out there. If you build it, they're going to come because people are hungry out there. You know what I'm saying? So when I started my hip hop organizing, I quickly realized all these people are hungry for it too. And no one has any way to fulfill that. If you have demand, and you build a supply to supply that demand, it's simple capitalism. The only thing that we're doing is we're selling compassion for the hood and compassion for hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people need that right now. They need spaces to rap. They need to see graffiti. They need to see some breakdancing. They want it. They need trap beats going to commercial and MSNBC.
I need trap beats.
And right now,
I'm a secret trap fan.
Same here. And right now, we got 3 corporations that'll give it to you, and they're multi-billion-dollar corporations. Or we can start investing in our real people. But you can't talk about hip-hop culture if you're not investing in the local people in your community who have the same narratives who are struggling to make it. You don't just get to talk about my culture unless you're actively trying to make it better and invest in people who are rapping in your same community about the things that your young kids and young boys and girls need to hear. That's just it. So for young folks who want to start something, just figure out how to organize it. Whichever way you figure out how to organize it, you will organize power, and that power will have an impact.
Love hearing that.
So I'm gonna ask for a little grace from my partners. I just popped this idea in my head, right? So Joey's used to this. I do this all the time. Just ideas pop up. So I remember when I was a kid watching like Andy Rooney at the end of 60 Minutes. I didn't know what else was on the whole rest of the hour, but that last public service announcement time, right? Another thing that bothered me, I just gotta get off my chest this week, and you can share on this too. If you look like me and you're thinking about writing a book about being woke, A, don't. and B, at least know how to define it. There's my public service announcement for today. So,
well, can I give you a slight reframing?
Yes,
of that
please
too?
do.
So if you look like you and you're woke, you probably have more privilege in getting your book published, but you can also use that privilege to say, hey, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to interview a bunch of dope Black people that need to be heard about, right? And then I'm going to interview them on what is woke because I need this to get out there.
Yeah.
You know, that's tag team. That's like some click stuff. That's like, you know.
That's leverage.
Yeah, right up there with if you look like me and you're writing a book on DEI and it's your bestseller, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, wait, yo, can I say like 70-some% of DEI professionals are white, and we
That
also
just came out. Yeah.
Yeah, we also say that this is, you know, white people got to fix the issue, don't we? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if white people really have to fix the issue of racism in America, in the workplace as well, then maybe shouldn't most of the DEI professionals be white people trying to fix their shit?
I think you've got a conversation there. I think you've got a conversation there.
An interesting
I think you've got a conversation there.
That's interesting.
You know?
I think you've got a conversation to be had.
That's the conversation. Now, I'm not saying I know the right answer,
right?
Because I do want Black people to get paid. You know what I'm saying? I know Black people have the impact and whatnot, but how can we create a system to where it's really going to reflect what we need to have? So I don't know. That's just something to throw out there.
I don't really disagree completely. I just say, but it can't be at the expense of the Black people and the Latino.
Well, and it has to be, how do we center minoritized populations' voices in that solution,
in that space?
Like it has to be, and for pay, because the whole thing of like, I take your talent and your skill and you donate that, and then I pay somebody because we're not doing that in 2023.
So, and mind you, I have not broken that concept down yet myself fully. So let me know.
We may have a discussion in the future about that and talk like
I
this.
am just getting to that point of I have given away so much free work, free skills, free lived
advice,
experience, training. I have just and even still, there are things that I'm passionate about that I will. But I'll tell you what, I was in I've done events. I used to do them in the military, still do events, program management. That's been my livelihood, right? So not even just as a hustle, it's like, no, the military, when I worked for International Academy in English and Spanish, that's my thing, right? So like I was in a meeting once and this group of people were talking about potentially bringing on an organizer, young kids they were talking about, which is fine. I'm all about get your opportunities. But I had volunteered for this group and another friend of mine who was also a very skilled event planner for years prior. And as soon as he was a young white male, and as soon as they entered his name, they were like, well, he won't do it for free. And between me and my friend, you had probably 50 years of event planning experience. And I hate to age myself, but you did. And literally, so at that point, I'm like, oh no.
No more.
That's not happening. Not doing it anymore. Did you just say the college student would not do it for free?
You're like, I got kids.
But me, who's had to do languages and do event programming in dual languages, you will strip my time, talent, and treasure for years and not offer me anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Not shame on you. Shame on me.
Shame on me. Real talk. Real talk.
Boundaries.
Real talk.
Expectations.
Real talk.
Yeah, it was.
Well, this is go ahead.
I think I experienced the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I've had those lessons, especially dealing with the philanthropic space. You know what I'm saying, where I've undervalued myself, and then realized that everybody else asked for the full amount of the grant, and I was the only one who tried to keep it like, maybe if we don't say the whole,
fine.
Yeah.
Yo, I've been in meetings where I was just like looking at my coworkers like damn.
Left that money on the table.
And I've had to get to the point where I was able to literally sit in a room and be like, I need $50,000. And inside I'm like, holy crap, I didn't say it right. But outside I'm like, I need $50,000.
I still shake every time. I do. I still shake when I ask for money, but for a nonprofit I'll say $100,000.
But I think because I think number one, we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? But I think that through all the work that I've seen, especially people in the DEI space talking about, imposter syndrome and speaking up for it, and you got to ask high so all the other brown people around you, can get treated well. It's like I almost get addicted to that uncomfortableness and be like, how much can I feel uncomfortable by asking him for an exorbitant amount of money?
Yeah.
So like, I'm like $100,000. I was, that. So
yeah.
If they don't blink, you say 200,000.
I spent a little over a decade in higher education fundraiser, and the one thing that I knew at some point I had to get out of that space was I wasn't about going golfing and asking millionaires for money. It just wasn't my thing. But here's the difference, right? I was just raising money for my college and my institution, which I care about. I got a great degree there, but it wasn't my passion. It was just work. It was work.
Yeah.
I'll go ask for money for this type of work. No second nature at all.
That's a great point, because it became really easy when I'm always thinking of some really beautiful, big-eyed black child who's like, I need you to ask for more money from my community in my head. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's easy to work for that.
That does make it easier.
Yeah, I don't mind. That's really easy when I'm working for my hood. When I do my grassroots work and I'm fundraising in the streets, and, I'll be like, yo, donate $100. We do 100, 200. People laugh at me like, what? That's a lot of money. I said, I don't lowball it for black babies in the hood. I'll gladly make you destitute to save black people in my community. Like, no joke. I would put you in the streets to save my community right now if you so gave me the opportunity. And I think that we have to believe in our activism so much. Like, we're willing to work ourselves to the bone, but we're not willing to ask this person with efficacy and financial, money, for everything. If I'm over here trying to stop the world from dying, and I'm like, the sky's falling, but I just asked you for $1. That don't really match up. I'm like, yo, the world is ending. I need you to break your pockets right now. You know what I'm saying? I need you to pay what you owe. But I think if your movement's worth it, you should have no problem centering that instead of your own discomfort.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know we're
Great
coming
answer
to the
out there
coming to the end here. Yep. I hope y'all heard that. I hope our listeners are listening, and I hope corporate America who's out there listening can see through. So important as we think about the 50th anniversary of hip hop, can see through the music and the man and the culture and dig into the culture, and not what you just continue to see on
just like Rakim, dig into the why.
Right. What's the why? So, Khafre, before we go, we always like to let our guests have the last word. Is there anything that you want our audience to know that would be impactful for them as we move down this DEI&B space and we continue to try to break barriers for minoritized people in this country? Anything in your world you want our people to know before we let you off?
Yeah,
your stage.
Or any new big events coming up.
I'm passing the mic. I'm passing the mic.
Any shameless plugs as well?
Well, besides going to hiphopforthepeople.org, the new nonprofit I'm building to take back a space for local hip hop culture to thrive and evolve. Besides that, I would say that during this great white awakening, sorry, that's just the white awakening line is funny to me. Yeah. I think that a lot of white folks are starting to see what's going on in our communities. But if we look at, all the donations and the money that was moved, it was moved to places like Black Lives Matter, NAACP, ACLU, while a lot of our arts orgs were going belly up left and right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I white women, we couldn't even say Roe versus Wade. So I don't know what trans people are going to do or what black people are going to do as far as criminal justice reform or whatever. But what we can bank on is mental health. And mental health is something that I can, put my money in. I think a lot of people, while they were trying to change criminal justice, for the better to the most part, I think that we really need to center mental health for Black people. And that looks like a number of different things, but I think for young kids, that's hip hop. That's for them having spaces where they belong, and kids are always told that they are not who they should be, and they're not acting like they should act. That's why hip hop is what they're screaming for. You know what I'm saying? So what we need to do is start investing in some of these mental health spaces for youth to create. Expressive arts therapy is the go-to according to the American Psychological Association. But our kids aren't doing Monet. You know what I'm saying? They're doing like Fab Five, and they're doing like Moni Love. They need to hear the swag of our culture. So please donate to hip hop organizations. Please support kids having spaces to record, perform. Donate to mental health for youth. That looks like art. And if they can be culturally rooted in that art, that's even better. And I'll take all your money to help me start in this nonprofit, Hip Hop for the People off. It's really new. And Black-led arts orgs have about 50% less money on hand, 72% less savings. So support Black arts.
Absolutely. To our listeners, support Black arts. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Well, we're wrapping up here. Joy, you want to take us out? We really enjoy your time. Khafre, and we're looking forward to continue to be in touch with you and follow you in your endeavors for sure. And you and I are going to have some good conversation offline as well on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't wait to even check out some of your artists. I actually do host the annual event where I bring artists, some local, some together, and we do fashion, art, music, and technology, right? So it's really a creative experience for young people. I used to do a fashion show. I got young people that loved it, and so I was like, okay, I got to give you education because I got too much of your intention. So we'll definitely let them check out some of your artists and maybe even do some collab on that with Anthony here too. And again, my fiance is an artist. He's shout out to you, Mook, honey. Love you.
What up, Mook?
So is Anthony, even though he didn't really say it.
And so it's Anthony's a producer too. Off of that. So there is such a synergy between activism and artistry, right? That sometimes we don't explore enough, or you can't really even communicate what it is. But there's just such a synergy between that. And so along that line, we want to thank you so much, Khafre, for joining us today. It's just been an amazing conversation, as we knew it would be. For our audience, remember, we drop episodes twice per month on all your favorite audio platforms and on YouTube. So just search Breaking Barriers, DEIMB podcast, and we will be there. So just thank you so much again. And remember, we're Maurice, you got to add us the today, because we definitely had some definite
tick for my
exactly
60 minutes thing. I'll get the bushy eyebrows.
All right, and partners, anything else to add?
No, just big shout out to our 5-star presenting sponsor, Kirkwood Community College. We appreciate your partnership on the podcast. Also, big thanks to our silver diversity sponsor, PG Cares, and our friends of Breaking Barriers supporters, Community Savings Bank, Tyler Link, and Barnes DDS. We love to hear from you. Hit us up and send your questions, comments, suggestions to info@toprankedtalentsolutions.com. All three of us will get that email. And again, thank you so much, Khafre, for joining us. It's been incredible, about an hour or so. And like I said, like Anthony said earlier, we always want to do a part 2 of these. So maybe next time we'll get you out here for that softball game or Joyce thing and get you on live in the studio. So
we'll be in touch. You got a unique road, man. And I know I said earlier I'm jealous. I meant that in a way of love, because my love for hip hop, and you found a way to do something that I love to do in the social justice space, and I want to figure out how we can help you and help us leverage that. So we will be in touch, and thank you so much for lending your voice to our audience. We appreciate it.
Y'all are so welcome. Thank you for having me, and I need all the help I can get, brothers. So let's come together. All right?
Got you.
All right.
And I'm gonna tell my ex that's not the Bay. Monterey and Seaside is not the Bay.
That ain't the Bay.
Nah.
Hey, you drinking E40's wine out there?
I have. I always support.
He's doing good with that winery you got, man.
Yeah, he is, man. We proud of any black people who are using what they can to do what they can. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So you said you've been to Giants games, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't suppose you happen to be lucky to go the one that Barry Bonds broke the day with his uncle in, did you?
No, but I went to a couple of them. No,
that was my little brother that threw that pitch, so.
Word. Holy.
Nick's brother was a pitcher and threw that pitch to him.
Yeah, they broke the tie with his uncle. Oh, yeah, into the water.
Yeah. No, I did not, but tell him I said thank you.
Well, get to the lab, man. I know you're on your way to the lab. Drop some heat.
Advancing equity is not a one-year project. It's a generational commitment.
There are too few people in the world willing to be the domino, too few people willing to take that fall.